So this time last year, along with many of you, I was having some very lively conversations about how AI was going to impact our roles as assessment professionals. For me, the rapid movement of AI brought me back a decade or so ago with the insurgence of all these different instructional design tools. I was overseeing an online college and the quality of the online offerings. And of course, we were looking to engage as many instructional design tools as possible to support student learning. It was nearly impossible to keep up with, and every day brought new and more advanced tools, I felt like. And I remember feeling I was not an instructional designer, I was an administrator. I remember feeling I could not keep up and that I was going to be left behind in some way. So that's what I was feeling last year around this time. Those same feelings surfaced with AI because I couldn't keep up with AI. And what I know now is that we'll never be able to keep up with the pace of AI, and that's okay. And so I was wondering, like many of my peers, how our roles were going to change. Will some of the roles in the assessment become completely obsolete due to the efficiency that AI offers? What are others doing? And we certainly witnessed that over the last year through Java Jams, as well as some other sessions that we all attended. I found myself just very much so in a state of concern, excitement, curiosity, just a full range of feelings. And so I was asking myself some questions, and Devin, if you could advance, there we go. So I kind of started off with these questions last year at this time. So what are others doing? My thought was they're using it for basic tasks. I was working mostly with faculty, and faculty were designing prompts and maybe using it for editing, creating some rubrics. Of course, we learned from Java Jams that was not the case. People were doing much more advanced things with AI. Is the role of the assessment professional changing because of AI? I really didn't think the role was entirely changing. I felt the functions were going to change because of AI's efficiency. Will our roles become obsolete? I was unsure, but a little concerned. How much of my assessment role could change? A little. I needed to pick up skills, but we know in the assessment world, we are always picking up skills and adding to our tool bucket. What should I be doing to develop and to acquire those needed skills? Just like I would with anything else, look for trainings, figure out how I can apply them in my day-to-day, and then collaborate with others. So that is where I was in 2023 at this time last year. Now, I have learned a lot from many of you through the sessions that I've attended, and certainly through Java Jams. And so the Java Jam sessions, as well as other AI-related events that have taken place across the past year, really helped me to find some clarity and direction around my concern about the role of assessment professionals and what I should be doing. So, Devin, if you could advance to the next slide. Thank you. So fast forward a year later, here we are I was preparing for this presentation, and I was thinking, wow, we galloped, just as Ruth said, through a year, and it was very fast, almost like a racehorse. And where do I stand? Where does the field stand? And so I asked myself the same questions. Is the role of the assessment professional changing because of AI? Absolutely. Will our roles become obsolete because of AI? Maybe. Depends on the functions of somebody's role. I would say if an assessment person is primarily a processor, and that's a large percentage of their role, then I would say, yeah, there's a good chance that role might go away because AI can do a lot of those processes, as we know. But roles that lead, create, coach others, mentor others, no, those roles are not going to go away. In fact, we're going to need those more than ever. We know that AI needs the human oversight. So what are others doing with AI? Well, we learned a lot of amazing things, and you're going to see what Devin does with AI shortly, towards the end of this presentation. Very exciting things are happening at various levels and institutions, and with various complexities. So then circling back to my thinking of my day-to-day and my role, how much of my role could change? And this sitting here last month thinking about these questions a lot. I'm thinking about Walden strategic initiatives around AI and what's happening at various levels there. I know that my role is going to change, and I know that I need to continue to be prepared in order to continue to be effective in my position. And so, what should I be doing to develop or acquire the needed skills? I need to identify where I stand, right? Like, what do I already know how to do around AI? What can I use it for when working with student learning? Acquire those skills, start using those skills in my practice, and then continue to collaborate with people across institutions, because I really feel that this last year has been immensely valuable by working with many of you on a number of projects. So that brings me to my crystal ball. So Devin, if you could advance a little bit. So how do we continue to do this? You know, Ruth had predicted a transition from the traditional role of the assessment director person to that of an experienced architect. And I completely agree with this. We are going to see an entirely new position in the field. For some will develop the skills and capacities needed for that experienced architect role, but not everybody will get there. And that's just what typically happens with a lot of different positions, right? And so I predict we are going to see a significant shift in the assessment professionals, where they'll find themselves leaving behind that traditional assessment role, a lot of those process functions as we know it now, and then finding themselves in more of a leader as coach role or a strategist, kind of embracing those interpersonal skills needed to kind of offset AI and make sure that we know that a human is overseeing the outcome or the output of what AI does. So now I know that those roles do exist for many of you are in them, but certainly it's not a widespread structure. But I predict there is going to be an entire shift in the field as institutions need to engage in role clarity as institutions are implementing the use of AI more across their institutions. And so a little bit of role clarity is going to happen there. That's going to change the way that our roles look. So with the possible elimination of a more process-focused positions around assessment of student learning, because of AI's efficiencies, we are going to see more positions morph into this coaching or strategist role. And so you might be thinking, how do we prepare for this? Because that's what I'm always thinking, is what am I doing on a regular basis to prepare for the changes that are happening and going to continue to happen? So now more than ever, there is a critical need for us to focus on our own career development as assessment professionals and to be effective in supporting student learning. We know that our role in assessment has always required us to continually build that toolkit with a broad spectrum of skills in order to be effective. And now we're adding AI to that and learning it. It's important to understand where we currently stand in our own career development in order to prepare for what's forthcoming. So what I'm talking about here is really kind of honing in and focusing on relevancy. You know, that's really one of the big questions that came up last year is, are we going to continue to be relevant? Yes, we are. We need to be in control of shaping that relevancy in the role of assessment for however it ends up being, whether it's a coach, a leader, strategist, or a learning architect. We need to be ahead of it. And so I'm leaving you with some work over winter break, because I like to give people work to do. I'm encouraging you to really sit back and think about your current position and where you are in your own career development right now, and do a little bit of a skill set inventory and a role inventory. Think about, in your current position, how much time, what is your responsibility? What percentage of responsibility is spent processing? What percentage is reporting? What percentage is consuming data, creating, leading others? And really, be very honest and sit and look at that. Some of our job descriptions actually outline that, while others might be a little bit more holistic. And then go back to that list and really look at it and say, how much of these functions can AI do without a person? And then I think that's a really good starting point in knowing where you need to go as an assessment professional in continuing to develop yourself so that you're prepared, so that you continue to be relevant for whatever shapeshifting happens or for whatever transition happens in the near future. You'll be ready.